Hello and good evening, friends, and welcome to the Week 14 edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. I am your host, Anthony Florio. I am joined, as always, by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We want to take a moment to apologize to you fans for not having a show last week. Circumstances beyond our control came up, and unfortunately, we couldn't do a show. But we're back this week, and we're back in a big way because starting this week and going forward for the next month or so, good news. Back by popular demand, MF's got the playoff scenarios. Oh, yeah. Ho. And I cannot wait for that. So when we get to them, be sure you have your handy-dandy notebooks ready, folks, because he's only going to tell you once. So there will be a quiz. So, all right, all kidding aside, let's first of all get into Thursday night football that went down this past Thursday night. And I'm going to tell you, this week, the AFC side of games is stacked. And the first of those games went down on Thursday night. I personally had this ranked as the number 5 game of the week. And unfortunately, well, it was not as good as I thought it was going to be. The Los Angeles Rams manhandled the New England Patriots 24-3. And it was pretty much the defense. But, Jared Goff, he didn't have to do much. He only had 137 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. But Cam Akers, though, 171 yards rushing. Cooper Kupp had a receiving touchdown. Goff had a rushing touchdown, by the way. But it was the defense, though. Oh, did the defense show up? Let me tell you. 3.5, 4.5, 1.5. 6 sacks for the defense. And a pick. So, very dominant for the LA Rams in this one. For New England, Cam Newton, 9 of 16, 119 yards, pick, no TDs. Stidham came in relief, 5 of 7, 27 yards. That's it. Harris led New England with 50 yards rushing. Harry was the leading receiver with 49 yards. Defense recorded 1 sack and 1 interception, and that was pretty much it. So, a lot of I know one Patriots, well, we know a Patriot was hopping mad and spitting kittens, as MF would say, and that is our dear friend Derek Ferreira. And, let's just say he was coming with the tiki torches and the pitchforks, if you know what I mean. He went on a major profanity-laced tirade the other night. If you dare watch the video, let me tell you, parental and viewer discretion strongly advised, which is all I'm going to say on that. So we're just going to leave it at that. But a dominant win for the LA Rams, 9-4. They're right up there in the NFC West race with Seattle. They have a big showdown coming up pretty soon in Seattle, and we'll definitely be covering that when we get to it. But big win for them, but a bad loss for the Patriots, though. I mean, just a few days ago, in that same stadium against the other tenant of that stadium, the Chargers, they absolutely dominated them, 45-0. And then they get dominated by the Rams, 24-3 Thursday nights. So 6-7. It'll be the first time since, you got to go all the way back to 2002, the last time the New England Patriots did not win at least 10 games in a season. Every year since 2003, they had recorded at least 10 or more wins in a season every single year. That streak ends this year. And like Derek said, I really don't know if they can recover from this. I mean, now they got to go to Miami, play the Dolphins in Miami. I don't like their chances there. And then they got to host Buffalo on the season finale of Monday Night Football, just after Christmas and prior to New Year's. And then the final week, I believe they have the Jets coming in. So I think they should beat the Jets, but I'm not sure about the Dolphins or the Bills. So I think this is the year. I think this is going to be the end of an era. So, but the Rams, we'll definitely see them in January. There's no doubt about that. We're going to see them. There's no question about that. But And it would also be the first time since 2008. That would be the last time that we had a postseason without the New England Patriots. So I don't know what else there is to say except MF. Rams are fine. Nothing to worry about in LA. But for New England, for the Patriots, and their loyal, hardcore fans like Derek Ferrera, Michael Bullock, and so many other people that you and I know, respectively, I hate to say it, but I think it's the end of an era.
It could be the end. Yeah, no doubt about it. They would have to win out and then need a lot of teams to get tripped up somewhere along the way. But like you said, this has not been a good season at all for New England. And then for the Rams, hey, a lot of people thought that maybe a couple of years ago was a fluke where you got to the Super Bowl out of nowhere, and a lot of people believe that you didn't deserve it. Now you're proving once again that you're a perennial team, you're a major player, you're a threat, and without a doubt, you definitely have a great chance of making a big run for it. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to add. So, there's really nothing more to say. Anthony, the Rams looked great. They continue to win. They're continuing to do the job, do the business, and there's really nothing more to add. So, yeah, it's all yours.
And I just want to, and I also want to let you folks know that that Rams Seahawk game, which I believe will be very significant as to who's going to win the NFC Western Division this year. That rematch in Seattle goes down in 2 weeks, December 27th. It's scheduled to be a 4:05 game, and we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's going to get cross-flexed because we got a damn good Sunday night game in that time slot anyway. The Tennessee Titans against the Green Bay Packers. I wouldn't cross-flex that.
Nah, that should not be cross-flexed at all. Nope.
And I could even go as far as to say that could be our game in 2 weeks, MF. You never know. That could end up being ours.
It's possible, very much, yeah. I'm not going to disagree with it.
Because both teams are great, and, we'll have to wait and see. So, but anyways, let's get into the rest of the slate for week number 14 in the National Football League, and we're going to start things off. Speaking of Super Bowls, that Thursday night game with New England and the Rams, that was a rematch, of course, of Super Bowl 36, one of the 10 greatest Super Bowl games of all time. And we go from one Super Bowl rematch to another. How about a rematch of Super Bowl 50? That's right, the Denver Broncos. They're going to be squaring off against the Carolina Panthers. This will be over on CBS, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, with Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, and Cherie Burris, and Carolina opening up as a 3-point favorite. Denver leads the all-time series 4-1. Their last meeting was in Denver in 2016. Denver won 21-20. Of course, you remember they met in Super Bowl 50 in San Francisco. Denver won that 24-10. Carolina's only win against Denver came back in 2008, and that was in Charlotte 30-10. But Denver won the last meeting in Charlotte 2012. That was a 36-14 beatdown. So with all that being said, let's get it started with Denver and Carolina. I believe on my AFC spreadsheet, I believe I put this in as the number 6 game of the week. No, stand corrected. This is the number 7 game of the week. My mistake. So here we go. You know the routine, what to watch for, bold predictions, stat to know. And there's no playoff significance here. But I'll tell you what. There's a new thing that came in my notes here. It's called playoff/draft picture. If there's no playoff significance in a game that we do, I'll cover the draft portion of it. If there is a playoff significance, we'll have MF cover that because he has the scenarios, and I do not want to take that spotlight away from him. So, and what to know for fantasy, the betting nugget, FPI, you know the bit. So here we go. What to watch for? Can the Panthers keep quarterback Teddy Bridgewater clean against a defense tied for 8th in the NFL in sacks with 32? Bridgewater might be without several of his top weapons, with running back Christian McCaffrey in doubt with a quad injury, and wide receivers DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel on the NFL's reserve/COVID-19 list. He might need more time than normal to give more inexperienced players a chance to create separation. But when Bridgewater is kept clean, the Panthers are usually competitive. Bold prediction, Broncos quarterback Drew Lock will have his first... Broncos quarterback Drew Lock will have his first interception-free day since week 2. when he threw just 4 passes before exiting with a shoulder injury. Locke has struggled in the turnover department since he returned in Week 5 from that injury and has tossed 13 interceptions in his 7 starts since then. But he says he has gotten the message, and the Panthers' defense has intercepted just 5 passes this season. Stat to know, Locke ranks in the bottom 4 among all 32 qualified quarterbacks in total QBR, 29th, completion percentage 32nd, and TD to interception ratio 30th. In this case, we have a draft picture. Both teams are 4-8 and in the top 10 projected draft spots. The Panthers are looking at the number 8 spot per FPI, while the Broncos are at number 10. Could either get into the top 5. The Panthers have an 8.7% chance, and Denver is slightly more likely at 10.1%. What to know for fantasy? Will McCaffrey be back this week? The consensus first overall pick in fantasy drafts has appeared in 3 games this season, the last of which was Week 9. And yet in weeks 1 to 9, he ranked as RB26 with 90.4 fantasy points. Betting nugget, Carolina is 0-4 against the spread in both its past 4 games as a favorite and its past 4 as a home favorite. Carolina opening up as a 65.6% favorite by FPI. And I'm having some doubts about this one, especially if McCaffrey and all those other guys are out. So I'm going to have to go with the Denver Broncos to win this one, I'm afraid. I'm going to go 24-10. Denver beats Carolina. So not much more to say. So MF, Denver, Carolina kicking off the Sunday portion of week number 14 in Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm with you, Anthony. I do believe that Denver should get the job done. Look, the way that they played a couple of weeks ago was really inspired football against the Miami Dolphins, and they won that game. Carolina most likely will not be with Christian McCaffrey. That means Mike Davis was going to have to share the bulk of it. I just don't know if they're going to do it. And plus, last week, they didn't have Drew Lock. Drew Lock was out. He was definitely in a situation. So I think that Denver should turn it around. They'll win this game. Nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, you'll lead off this next matchup. Keep your mic on here. The number 6. This is the number 6 game of the week on our side here. The Houston Texans squaring off against the Chicago Bears from Soldier Field in Chicago. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins on the call. Houston opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. These teams have played 4 times, and the Houston Texans have won all 4 meetings with the Chicago Bears. They're 4-0 against Chicago. The Bears have never beaten the Houston Texans. So let's keep that in mind. They've played twice in Chicago. 2004, Houston won 24-5, and then 2012, a Sunday night in MF. I believe we had that game in 2012. Houston won that one, if you remember, 13-6.
Yes, we did. I think I remember that game. Yes,
that was a Sunday night in Soldier Field. We had it, and defensive battle. Houston won 13-6. But anyways, MF, I'm looking at Houston and Chicago here, and I do not believe
this is draft stock more than anything else.
Yeah, another draft stock game. There are no postseason implications here, so I'll cover that when we get to me. So, all right, MF, Houston, Chicago, our number 6 game of the week, another one of our meh games. So, what do you see in this one? I mean, Chicago. What can you say about Chicago? They started 5-1, but since then they've fallen. They've been a dumpster fire. They've lost 6 in a row. What can Ward's team do to stop the bleeding here?
Well, the thing is that with Chicago, the problem is that they just don't have consistent quarterback play. It doesn't matter if it's from, from either Nick Foles or if it was from the Mitchell Trubisky. You just haven't had any consistent play. And that's one of the downsides that they've been having lately. So at the end of the day, you just got to try to make the most of it. Try to do whatever you can do and hope and pray for the best. So there's really nothing more to add, Anthony. I'm going to go with Houston. I just think Houston's the better team. I'm just not as sold as you are. I'm just not as sold on Chicago like I was earlier in the year. You are absolutely right. 5-0, 5-1, and they were looking like a true contender. But now I feel like they're definitely struggling and they're not looking good. So there's really nothing more to add. So Anthony, I give it to you.
Yeah. What to know, what to watch for, rather. The buildup in Chicago is all about Houston's Deshaun Watson, one of two franchise quarterbacks the Bears bypassed in favor of Mitchell Trubisky in the 2017 NFL Draft. The game itself is almost inconsequential. Bears fans will hang on every Watson throw the way they did when Patrick Mahomes visited Soldier Field last year. Mahomes embarrassed and we have a major upset in college football. LSU has just upset Florida. Florida loses. Down goes Florida. LSU has stolen one at Ben Griffin Stadium. But then again, it's a fog bowl, just like we had with the Army Navy.
Yeah, it was.
Major upset, MF. What do you say?
Well, the national champs. They might not be the national champions much longer, but they are the national champions. They've done it. And it just looks like, it hooked a little to the right. He missed it by that much. It was close. Oh, jeez, oh, God, it was so close. Inches away.
Wide left.
Oh.
I mean, this may not have been the best week of college football. I'll say that. But we have had two major upsets, but this was the big one right here.
This is the biggest of them all. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, in a day where North Carolina kicked down the doors of Hard Rock Stadium and literally made themselves at home.
Yep.
62-26. Where did that come from? Oh my gosh, yeah. Carolina, unbelievable. And then Colorado went down to Utah in a winter wonderland down there, and LSU with the big win of the week right here.
And also keep a close eye. We got ourselves an upset alert on ABC right now. SC is just barely hanging on, 36-35.
Yep, I'm keeping an eye on that now. So,
oh yeah!
But
holy cow!
What a day! We had a winter wonderland in Boulder, Colorado. We had a fog bowl in West Point. We get another fog bowl in Gainesville. Oh Lord, what else is going to happen? Oh my Lord! But anyways, getting back to this, the buildup in Chicago is all about Houston's Deshaun Watson, one of two franchise quarterbacks the Bears bypassed in favor of Mitchell Trubisky in the 2017 NFL Draft. The game itself is almost inconsequential. Bears fans will hang on every Watson throw the way they did when Patrick Mahomes visited Soldier Field last year and Mahomes embarrassed the Bears. Bold prediction, Watson will throw for 3 touchdowns and set his single-season career high 27. That would also be the second most in a single season in Texans history. Stat to know, the Bears are 30th in offensive efficiency in yards per game, but the Texans rank 30th in defensive efficiency in opponent yards a game. In the draft picture, through week 6, Chicago held a 71.6% chance to make the playoffs. Now, just 6.6%, and a projected number 12 pick in the 2021 draft. And while Houston's playoff hopes ride at less than 0.1%, it does not have a first-round pick. What to know for fantasy on a per-game basis, Bears running back David Montgomery is RB7 since the Tariq Cohen injury. He faces the second most friendly defense to opposing running backs this weekend. Betting nugget, Houston is 3-2 against the spread against teams with losing records this season and 1-6 against the spread against all others. Houston, slight FPI favorite, 52.9%, just about 53% going with Houston. I'm going with Houston as well. 27-20, Houston beats Chicago. So there's really nothing more to say on that. So let's get into our next matchup here. Another non-playoff game here. We got the Dallas Cowboys squaring off against the Cincinnati Bengals at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati over on Fox with Kevin Kugler, Chris Spielman, and Laura Oakman. Dallas opening up as a 3-point favorite. Dallas leads the all-time series 8-4. They've won the last 3 meetings in a row against the Bengals. Their last meeting in Cincinnati was 2012. Dallas won 20-19. Cincinnati last beat Dallas at home in 2004. That was a 26-3 final. So, of course, there may not be any playoff implications for the teams, but the big story, though. Andy Dalton returns to Cincinnati in a Dallas Cowboys uniform. So let's not forget about that. So, yeah, okay, here we go. What to watch for? Cowboys quarterback Andy Dalton is making his return to Cincinnati, where he was a starter for the first 9 years of his career. The loser of this game will strengthen its position for the number 3 pick in the 2021 draft. And the Bengals have dropped 4 straight games, struggling to score since quarterback Joe Burrow suffered a season-ending knee injury in Washington. Bold prediction, the Cowboys will not have a turnover against the Bengals. While that might not seem bold for most teams, it is for the Cowboys. They have had at least one giveaway in all but 2 games this season. Dalton has at least 1 pick in each of his 5 starts as the quarterback, but he will not have one in his return to Cincinnati. Only 4 teams have fewer takeaways than the Bengals, 12, including the Cowboys. Stat to know, Dallas has allowed 167.8 rushing yards a game this season, on pace to be the second worst mark in a season in Cowboys history, 186.8 in 1960. In more recent history, it's also the worst mark by any NFL team since the 2010 Buffalo Bills, 169.6. In the draft picture, following their loss to the Ravens, the Cowboys now have just a 1% chance of making the playoffs per FPI. Cincinnati's already eliminated. And both teams have 0.1% chance at the top pick right now. Realistically, it's all about the number 3 spot. The Cowboys are projected to pick 4th, while the Bengals are 3rd. What to know for fantasy? Bengals receiver T. Higgins has at least 5 targets in 11 straight games and at least 5 catches in 6 of his last 7. The betting nugget, Dallas is 2-9 against the spread this season, the worst cover percentage in the NFL. Cincinnati is the FPI favorite at 63.5%, but I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. I'm going to go 23-20. Dallas beats Cincinnati, and Andy Dalton will return to Cincinnati, and he'll leave a winner. So not much more to say, MF. Andy Dalton returns to Cincinnati. How do you think the crowd's going to – well, there's probably going to be no crowd.
There's no crowd.
So we won't have to worry about, any possible crucifixion. But I don't think you would. I don't think you would have if there had been. But Andy Dalton returns nonetheless.
Yeah, this is going to be a great game, no doubt about it. This is going to be a heck of a match. I kind of feel like Dallas should win this game. No, in my mind. I just feel like they're going to be the better team. I just don't know if there's going to be any other situation about it. So give me Dallas to win, but I'm not really convinced. I think their defense has been struggling. I think they're not as good as what they used to be, but I'll go with Dallas to win. So, yeah, nothing more to add. Anthony, I'll give it to you. I got Dallas winning, but not really convinced,
Fair enough. I have a divisional game here, MF. Hopefully you can help me out here. Tennessee and Jacksonville. Is this their first meeting or is this their second? Because we got the Tennessee Titans squaring off against the Jacksonville Jaguars at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. I'm just wondering if this is the first or the second.
All right. Give me one moment.
My gut's telling me this is their second.
I do believe this is their second. And I do believe Tennessee won the first time around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Let's see.
Jacksonville's only won 1 game, and that was
it was 33-30. Tennessee won. This was back in September. September 20th was the game.
I believe that was in week number 2.
Yes.
So, okay. I thought so. All right. Just wanted to be sure on that. So, Tennessee Titans, Jacksonville Jaguars, our number 8 game of the week on our side. It's the penultimate zonk game, if you will. There's only 1 game worse than this. TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, of course, always adjacent to the Daily's Place, home of AEW. And like MF said, this is the second meeting with Tennessee. Tennessee won in a surprisingly entertaining game in week 2, but in Nashville, and that allowed Tennessee to extend their series lead. It's now 30-21 in favor of Tennessee. But let's keep in mind, Jacksonville won in Jacksonville last year against Tennessee, 20-7. Tennessee last won in Jacksonville in 2018. So, but this is a 50-50 game here, MF. 50-50. Draft implications for the Jacksonville Jaguars, whereas there's playoff implications. Okay, I see your big announcement in our chat there. I'm not at all surprised. So, anyways, I think, hold on a minute. Let me see. MF, you start this one off. Tennessee and Jacksonville, 50-50 game here. Jacksonville, draft implications for them, but playoff implications for Tennessee because I do believe they control their own destiny in the South now. Isn't that right?
They do control their own destiny. They won't be able to clinch the division. It won't be their divisions yet. However, a win here over Jacksonville actually would put them at least one or two more wins, actually one win away from clinching the AFC South. So it would not be, it will not be a done deal for them. It will not be a done deal for them. A victory here for Tennessee will put them in the driver's seat. It won't put them over the top because I do believe they would still need a couple of plays, a couple of teams to get tripped up along the way. But like I said, Tennessee would absolutely put themselves in a position where they could win the AFC South. Like I said, there is no clinching scenarios for them this week. However, a win here would just put them one step closer to pretty much inevitability that they will clinch the AFC South. So they won't clinch it, but it would put them at least a week away from getting to the division title. So they would be at least inching closer. They won't clinch it this week.
All right. So with that being said, your thoughts on Tennessee and Jacksonville, even though I know it's not going to be much of a thought here.
It isn't really much of a thought. I think Tennessee will continue to do what they got to do. Derrick Henry will run the football. Ryan Tannehill doesn't have to explode too much. I think he'll have a good performance. Don't expect much on the Jacksonville side, even though I think James Robinson will try to do something here. But I just think that Tennessee's just going to overwhelm them. Too much offense, too much game, too much of a good thing going. At the end of the day, give me Tennessee to win this, and they'll win this pretty easily. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah, definitely. What to watch for? Dalvin Cook ran for 120 yards against the Jaguars last week, but needed 32 carries to do it. That's just 3.8 yards a carry. But Tennessee tailback Derrick Henry is a different style of runner and has absolutely feasted on the Jaguars in the past two late season matchups. 397 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 11 yards a carry. The Jaguars have spent all week working, tackling, and trying to defend against Henry's stiff arm. Henry might get his yards, but like Cook, is going to have to work for them. Bold prediction, Titans receivers A.J. Brown and Corey Davis will each have 100-yard receiving games, and quarterback Ryan Tannehill will pass for over 300 yards as the Titans offense has a field day against the Jaguars. Stat to know, Jaguars running back James Robinson needs only 42 rushing yards to become the fourth undrafted rookie with 1,000 yards in the common draft era, 1967. And he has 7 games with 100 scrimmage yards, tied with Clark Gaines in 1976 for most by an undrafted rookie. Like I have it a little different here. The Titans, who already have an 85% chance of making the playoffs per FPI, could be looking at 93% with a win on Sunday. The Jaguars are eliminated after losing 11 straight, but they are projected to pick second overall, and they have a 25.7% chance to jump the Jets for the top spot. What to know for fantasy? Robinson is having a great season, but his ceiling is capped. Among qualifiers, only Frank Gore has fewer expected fantasy points per carry based on the location of rushes. Betting nugget, when Tannehill starts regular season games for Tennessee, overs are 18-3-1, including 9-2-1 this year. Tennessee overwhelming FPI favorite, 76.2%. Tennessee wins 35-24. That's my final. UCLA has just taken the lead on USC. They just kicked the field goal. 38-36, UCLA. Just under a minute to go in the Rose Bowl on ABC. We have more Shakespearean drama on this night. So cannot wait to see how this ends up. But there you go. Tennessee wins 35-24. All right, I'm sick and tired of these meh games. Let's get into some meat and potatoes action here. And we're going to do that right here and right now. Our number 2 game of the week right here. The Kansas City Chiefs squaring off against the Miami Dolphins from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami on CBS. Hello, friends. Yes, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson. They will be in Miami for this one. Actually, I forgot to mention that that Tennessee's opening up as a 7.5-point favorite against Jacksonville. Forgot to mention that. I do apologize. So, and in this one, Kansas City is opening up as a 7-point favorite against Miami. Kansas City leads the all-time series 14-13, and the Chiefs have won the last 2 meetings in a row against the Dolphins. Oh my! SC in great positioning after a nice return. 43 seconds left. All he needs a field goal. They don't have to get a touchdown necessarily, but try to take off as much time as you can. That's all I can say there. So anyways, their last meeting in Miami was 2014. Kansas City won 34-15. The Dolphins last beat the Chiefs at home back in 2006. That was a 13-10 final. So our number 2 game of the week. I mean, this could have easily been our game, but there's one game that's even bigger than this one. So, but here we go. KC and Miami. What to watch for? Miami's Xavier Howard is playing like the NFL's best cornerback with a league best 8 interceptions. But Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill has been one of the NFL's most explosive players, ranking 3rd in receiving yards and sitting tied for 1st in touchdowns. Since week 5, the Chiefs have had the NFL's top scoring offense, while the Dolphins have the top scoring defense. It's a classic battle of great versus great. Bold prediction, the Chiefs will intercept Tua Tagovailoa twice on Sunday. The Dolphins quarterback is yet to throw an interception this season, but the Chiefs are 2nd in the league in interceptions with 14 and had their way with another young quarterback, Denver's Drew Lock, this season. They intercepted Lock 4 times in 2 games. Stat to know, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes has thrown for 32 touchdowns with 2 interceptions this season. The fewest interceptions in a season with at least 30 passing touchdowns is 4, done by Tom Brady in 2010 with 36 touchdowns. Both of Mahomes' picks this season have come against the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, my wording when it comes to the playoff draft picture is different than MF. There's numbers that go with this. The Chiefs have already clinched a playoff spot, and they can clinch the AFC West with a win or Raiders loss this week. They also have a 54% chance of earning the number 1 seed in the AFC per FPI, and that could climb to 63% with a win Sunday. The Dolphins, meanwhile, enter the week with a 41% chance of making the playoffs. Per FPI, that would rise to 69% if Miami wins Sunday, but it will fall to 32% with a loss. What to know for fantasy? Due for a spike in production? Based on the location of carries, Dolphins running back Myles Gaskin's production as a rusher is 26.6% below expectations, the 2nd worst rate of all qualifiers. Betting nugget, Miami has covered in 7 of its past 8 games. It is 18-6 against the spread since its week 5 bye last season, the best mark in the league over that time. Kansas City is an overwhelming FPI favorite, 76.4%. But nonetheless, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. It's going to be close. I'm going to say 24-20. Kansas City returns to Miami for the first time since winning Super Bowl 54 back in February. They left that night with the Lombardi Trophy. And I say they'll come back to Miami, and it will be another win for your reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions. But they're gonna earn this one. 24-20, Kansas City steals one over Miami. So, and a touchdown for USC. USC has just scored a touchdown. 16 seconds left to go. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 yards out from Keaton Slovis, and 42-38 pending the PAT and all that. So USC has come back and has taken the lead over UCLA. And if they hang on, they will win the Pac-12 Southern Division. So very exciting. We'll keep an eye on it. But nonetheless, I got Kansas City beating Miami 24-20. So MF, nothing more to say here. I mean, we know what the implications are. And I can honestly say when it comes to you and your Dolphins, this is your Super Bowl right here.
This is a must win. If you're Miami, you have to win this game. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts about it. You win this game, you practically are going to the playoffs. You don't need to worry about what happens next. Here's the scenario I'm thinking. Yes, Anthony, you kind of stole my thunder here. If Kansas City wins or a Raiders loss, then the Kansas City Chiefs do indeed win the AFC West. That's theirs. They got it. Nothing more to say. If you're Miami, you saw the numbers. You know what is at stake. If you win the game on Sunday, you practically clinch and solidify your spot in the postseason. You will go to the playoffs. It will be yours. You're in. If you lose that game, then you have to win out. Then, in other words, you would literally have to win out, and you would have to get, I guess you could say you would need a miracle to get in, even though 7 teams need to get in, and Miami has been hovering around the 6-7 spot for a while now. So, obviously, if Miami wins, that's huge. That puts us in a great prime position, and it also puts pressure on Buffalo that they have to win their game. And that's also a thing that we all need to keep a close eye on. If Buffalo loses and Miami wins, it's a tie for the first place spot in the AFC East. Now all of a sudden, here we go. Now the game changes. Everything changes. So, I do believe Kansas City will win. They are the most superior team. They are really good. They love these type of clutch moments. And I do believe that, first off, Myles Gaskin will not play. He's out. He's injured. He will not play. He will not go. So that's one thing. I don't know if he tested positive or if if somebody that he knows tested positive for corona and he was just too close to somebody and he got caught. So he's out. So Kansas City wins. Nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Oh, okay. Next up, it will be, I do believe it is a renewal of an old school NFC Eastern Division rivalry. Back to the meh. Well, actually, no, this isn't a meh game. There's implications for both of these teams. I'm sorry. We had the Arizona Cardinals squaring off against the New York Giants from MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This will be over on Fox with Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Shannon Spake. Former NFC Eastern Division rivals squaring off in this one. Let me see. The spread, it favors Arizona by 2.5. And a lot of history between these two. The Giants have a very large lead in this series. They lead at 80-45 with 2 ties. However, the Cardinals have won the last 3 meetings in a row with the G-Men, including one in New York last year. Arizona won 27-21. Matter of fact, the Cardinals have won the last 3 meetings in New York. Last year, 27-21, 2014, 25-14, and then 2009, 24-17. The Giants have not beaten the Cardinals at home since they were in the old Giants Stadium opening day, week 1 of 2005, when the Giants put a 42-19 whooping on them. So there's nothing more to say on this one. MF, Arizona. I'll tell you, what's going on with Arizona, man? I mean, ever since that miraculous Hail Murray, where they got that lucky win over Buffalo,
Yep.
Ever since then, they're on a downward spiral. I believe they've lost 3 in a row. But
They've
meanwhile,
lost three in a row. Yep. And New
but don't look
York, here
now.
we go.
Here come the G-men. I mean,
Yep.
here's an interesting stat here before I give it to MF. Keep in mind, this team started 1-7. They started 1-7. No team in NFL history has ever started 1-7 and made the playoffs. Could it be until now, MF?
Well, remember the year that the Giants won the Super Bowl, which I believe was the Super Bowl 42 win, where they won 8 in a row and got there. Oh no, it was 8 straight road wins was why they won it all. So I mean, it's possible. There's no doubt about it. It can go a number of ways, but I just got to say that it's going to be a very interesting game. I gotta go with the team with the hot hand right now, and that team is the New York Football Giants. So as much as I know a lot of people would be like, oh, about this or oh, about that, and the whole 9 yards. At the end of the day, I'm gonna say it. For me, I gotta go with the Giants. I think the Giants is gonna win the game. I think they're gonna keep the momentum going, and the way that they've been playing, the way that they've been winning these games lately, there's really nothing more to add. So yeah, give me the New York Giants to win the game. I really got nothing more to add. So let's just move right on along. So yeah, give me the Giants to win. And Anthony, I'll give it to you. I just, like you said, with everything that's been riding, with everything that's been going on lately, I just feel like the Giants they've turned the corner. They're starting to play like a team. Offensively, they're looking great. And the real reason why they've been playing so great lately, the defense has really risen. They've really stepped it up in the last, I want to say at least the last month or so. Their defense has really stepped it up.
Look what they did against Seattle.
Yeah.
They went into Seattle and they beat them.
Yep.
Hard to believe. But real quick, it is a final. USC has survived. USC has beaten UCLA 43-38. And with that win, I do believe they have clinched the Pac-12 Southern Division. So I believe we will be seeing them in the Pac-12 championship.
It will be Washington versus USC next week for the Pac-12 title. They just announced it officially.
And that'll be on Friday night over on Fox. So for all you wrestling fans, SmackDown will be over on FS1. So let's get that out of the way. So what to watch for? The Giants have rushed for at least 132 yards in 6 of their last 7 games. This week they get to face the league's 22nd ranked rushing attack. How running back Wayne Gallman and company do against Arizona's defense will go a long way in determining the final outcome of this contest. Bold prediction, Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins will have 125 yards and a touchdown, but it won't be enough because the Cardinals will be playing from behind for most of the game. Hopkins hasn't had 100 yards receiving since the Week 10 miracle win over Buffalo, so he's due for a big game. Stats to know, the Giants had 15 turnovers and 10 takeaways in their first 8 games. Over their past 4, they have committed only 2 turnovers and secured 10 takeaways. The playoff draft picture. Arizona has a 40% chance of making the playoffs per FPI. Win, and it becomes 51%. Lose, and the Cards are left at 21% to make the postseason. The Giants, meanwhile, enter the week at 57% likely to win the NFC East, and it would rise to 77% with a win. What to know for fantasy? Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray's worst 3 games this season have come in succession, and yet his 308 fantasy points still rank second across all positions. Betting nugget, the Giants are 8-2 against the underdog this season with 7 straight covers. Arizona is the FPI favorite, 63.9%, about 64% for Arizona. But I agree with you, MF. I'm going with the New York Giants to win this one as well. I'm going to go I heard they're supposed to have Daniel Jones back, so that'll definitely help their cause. So, I'm going to go 26-23, the Giants over Arizona. So not much more to say there. And now let's get into what you would have to consider the game of the week over on the NFC side of the ledger to close out our early games. This is our final early game here. Good one here. The Minnesota Vikings squaring off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, the home of Super Bowl 55. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews, they will be there for this one. And Tampa Bay opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. Speaking of divisional rivalries, this is a renewal of another one. Old NFC Central rivals squaring off here. Minnesota leads the all-time series 33-22. Minnesota's won the last two meetings in this series. Their last meeting in Tampa was 2014. Minnesota won it 19-13 in overtime. Tampa Bay last beat Minnesota at home back in 2008. That was a 19-13 final. So here we go. The game of the week over on the NFC side of the ledger, hands down, as far as I'm concerned. What to watch for? The Bucs' top-ranked rushing defense is giving up just 74 rushing yards a game and has yet to allow a 100-yard rusher this season. While Minnesota running back Dalvin Cook boasts the league's second most rushing yards with 1,250, the Bucs made the Chiefs and Rams one-dimensional, and Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff still thrived. But this will be a big test for Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. Bold prediction, Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady will throw for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Bucs bye week will prove to be just what the offense needed to get back on track. And as a bonus, Brady's deep passing attack will look rejuvenated. Against the young Vikings secondary, Brady will avoid his first regular season 3-game losing streak since 2002 in New England. Stat to know, Minnesota wide receiver Justin Jefferson has 1,039 receiving yards this season, putting him on pace for 1,385. That would be second most all-time by a rookie behind Bill Groman's 1,473 in 1960. In the playoff draft picture, the Buccaneers enter the week with a 92% chance of making the playoffs, but if Minnesota beats them, they will be looking at a 73% chance per the FPI. The Vikings, meanwhile, are fighting for their playoff lives. They enter the week with a 32% chance, which could double to 64% with a win. But if they lose, well, they'll have a 23% chance to still make the postseason if they lose, as they would fall to 6-7. What's a note for fantasy? That's not 1, not 2, but 3 straight games with more than 21 fantasy points for Cousins. It should be noted, however, that all 3 of those games came at home. Betting nugget, Brady is 46-19 against the spread in his career after a loss, including 4-0 against the spread with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, overwhelming FPI favorite, 76.9%. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game. My final score, 31-23. Tampa Bay beats Minnesota. So MF, close out the early games with the NFC game of the week, Minnesota and Tampa.
I got to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I don't think there's really nothing more to add. So, Anthony, let's just move right along next. Let's go into the late games.
And we got a good one here. We have 2 405 games on our side. One good, one, well, the other's the zonk. But we'll get into the zonk in a minute. Our number 4 game of the week. Definitely a lot of implications here, and it's a good thing MF's leading off here because I probably would have stolen his thunder on it. I apologize for that other one, but, it is what it is. But we got the Indianapolis Colts squaring off against the Las Vegas Raiders from the beautiful new Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas over on CBS with a 4:05 kickoff. Ian Eagle, Charles Davis, Evan Washburn, they will be there for that one. And Indianapolis opening up as a 3-point favorite. The Raiders lead the all-time series 9-7. They met in Indianapolis last year, and the Raiders won 31-24. The last time the Raiders were the home team was 2018 in Oakland. Indy won 42-28. The Raiders last beat the Colts at home in 2016. That was in Oakland, 33-25, Christmas Eve day, 2016. I remember that day very vividly. So, but there's not much more to say. MF, Indy trying to keep pace with Tennessee in the South. Meanwhile, the Raiders, I think it's very, very unrealistic they're going to win the West, but they're trying to hang on for a wild card spot. So what are the implications in this big one?
Well, it's really, like you said, Anthony, the West, if the Raiders lose this game, they automatically hand the Kansas City the AFC West. It does not matter what Kansas City does. Either a win or a loss, and it's over. So if Kansas City beats Miami, or if the Raiders lose to Indianapolis, then Kansas City wins. The Raiders still has a shot at the playoffs, which they are very much in it. They are not out of the mix. They can definitely get a wild card. And for Indianapolis, they're in the mix as well. Both teams must win this game. Not for divisional purposes, all right, but like you said, for Indy and for Indianapolis and for Las Vegas, division seems a little bit out of the realm. But for the wild card, whoever wins the wild card game, that might be the moment that could solidify them into the playoffs. So one way or another, somebody's going in, and there's really nothing more to add. So Anthony, I'm gonna go with Indy because I think this game is in Indy, so I'm gonna go with Indy.
No.
Oh, it's in Vegas.
Allegiant, yes.
All right, then I stand corrected. Then I'll go with the Raiders. Then Raiders to win this game. Nothing more to say, Anthony. It's yours.
All right. Let me see. What to watch for? The Raiders will be trying to get their running game going against the number 7 ranked rush defense in the NFL. In weeks 8 to 10, Las Vegas averaged 190.7 yards a game on the ground. The past 3 weeks, it's only 67 a game. If the Colts make the Raiders a one-dimensional passing team, they can make quarterback Derek Carr uncomfortable in the pocket. So keep an eye on Las Vegas's right tackle spot, where Trent Brown just might appear in only his 3rd game this season. He's the best in the world at what he does, Carr said of Brown. Bold prediction, the Colts will sack Carr at least 3 times. Carr has been sacked 5 times over the past 2 games by Atlanta and the Jets, teams who both are in the bottom half of the NFL in sacks. The Colts, meanwhile, could be the healthiest they've been in several weeks on defense if linebacker Bobby Okereke and safety Kari Willis return from their injuries. Stat to know, Raiders tight end Darren Waller is second among all tight ends in receptions, 77, and receiving yards, 742. He's coming off a game with 13 receptions for 200 yards and a pair of scores. But the Colts have allowed the fewest yards per attempt, 5, and fewest TDs, 1, tied with the Patriots, to tight ends this season. Playoff/draft picture. The Colts enter the week with a 61% chance of making the playoffs per FPI. Make that 82% with a win and 43% with a loss. And chasing them in the AFC, the Raiders hold a 49% chance of making the playoffs, but could be positioned with a 70% chance if they win Sunday, but lose, and they're looking at a 26% chance. What to know for fantasy? Indianapolis receiver T.Y. Hilton has more fantasy points over his past 2 games, 43.1, than he had over his previous 6. Betting nugget, the Colts are 7-2 against the spread in their past 9 games as a favorite. Vegas, FPI favorite, 52.7%, just about 53% going with Las Vegas. Oh, boy, this is a tough one. I'm sorry, MF. I got to respectfully disagree with you. I'm going to go with Indy to win this game. I'm going to say 31-25. Indianapolis steals one in Las Vegas. I would not at all be surprised if Vegas were to win. I would not. But I got to go with Indy here. I think they're the better team. So 31-25, Indy beats Vegas. So not much more to say on that. Let's move on to – now we move on to our Zonk game of the week. Ooh, this is not going to be easy. This is not going to be a pretty game, I should say. The other 405 game, we got the New York Jets squaring off against the Seattle Seahawks from the CenturyLink Field in Seattle. I know they changed the name. I forgot what it was, but nonetheless, we got the legendary Greg Gumbel with Rich Gannon and Jay Feely. The Seahawks are the biggest favorite of the week. They're 14.5-point favorites against the Jets, and rightfully so. Seattle leads the all-time series 11-8. The Seahawks have won the last 3 meetings in a row against the Jets, including the last couple in Seattle. 28-7 in 2012. That's the last time they met in Seattle. The Jets have not won in Seattle since week 1 of the 1997 season at the old Kingdome, when they manhandled the Seahawks 41-3. I remember that very vividly. I've seen the highlights on NFL Primetime. It was a laugh riot with Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, and Bill Pito. That was funny stuff. But anywho, the Jets in Seattle. So Yeah, this isn't going to take long. But what to watch for, as if Jamal Adams facing the team that dealt him to Seattle this summer after a messy divorce isn't enough of a storyline on its own. The All-Pro safety can make NFL history. His team-high 7.5 sacks are a half sack shy of Adrian Wilson's NFL record for most in the season by a defensive back since those became an official stat in 1982. With as much as the Seahawks blitz Adams and as motivated as he figures to be against the Jets, there's a good chance he gets the record on Sunday. Bold predictions: Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf will have a career receiving day, meaning more than 177 yards. The Jets have a new defensive coordinator as Frank Bush replaces the fired Greg Williams on an interim basis, but they have the same old defense. And the Jets simply don't have any cornerbacks who can match up physically with Metcalf. This could be a historic day. Stat to know, a team 0-12 or worse has beaten a team with a winning record one time in the Super Bowl era. In 2011, the 0-13 Colts defeated the 7-6 Titans. Playoff draft picture, the Seahawks, 97% chance of making the playoffs, need to make up ground to win the NFC West. They have a 33% chance per FPI, and even if they win against the Jets, they'll still hold just a 35% chance of jumping the Rams in the division. And worse, a loss puts them at 22%. No playoff implications to discuss for the Jets, but FPI does give them a 44% chance of losing their remaining games and a 74.1% chance to hold on to the number one pick and perhaps the chance to draft Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence in the 2021 draft. What to know for fantasy: Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson averaged 21.2 points a game through 9 weeks, but he has failed to even reach that number in each of his past 4 games. Over that stretch, he has 14.9 fantasy points a game. Betting Nuggets: Seattle is the 7th team since 2010 to be a double-digit favorite immediately after losing outright as a double-digit favorite. Each of the previous 6 covered. Seattle, the FPI favorite of the week, 86.1% for Seattle. I'm going with Seattle. 31-13. Seahawks win all day. So nothing much more to say. MF, Zonk game of the week. And we've had some entertaining ones, but I don't think this one will be.
Seattle's going to win this game. There's really nothing more to add, Anthony, so let's just move on right along.
We go to the 425 games, and there's a divisional game, MF, I'm going to need your help with. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Is this their first or their second? I got a feeling this is their second because I think they played at Lambeau this year, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe this is their second as well. And, back in I think it's week 2. It was a 42-21 Green Bay win. So, yeah, this is their second meeting.
Okay. So, I thought it was. So, anywho, we got the Green Bay Packers squaring off against the Detroit Lions from Ford Field in Detroit. This game will be over on Fox. We have Adam Amin, Mark Schlereth, and Lindsey Zarniak. They will have the call of that one. And the spread favors Green Bay by 9. Green Bay opening up as a 9-point favorite. And series history, it's all Green Bay all the time. It's now 101-72 with 7 ties. And that's now 3 straight games the Packers have beaten the Lions. Green Bay won in Detroit last year, 23-20. The Lions beat the Packers at home the year before, 2018. That was a 31-23 finals. So not much more to say. MF, for Detroit, I think Detroit's pretty much out of the playoff picture, but Green Bay, they definitely have some big implications, not just divisional implications, but also top spot implications.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. At the end of the day, you're absolutely right. That is going to happen, too. I'm going to go with Green Bay as well. I think Green Bay is going to win, and there's really nothing more to add. So, Anthony, I'll give it to you. Give me the Green Bay Packers to win the game. Oh, wait, hold. I'm sorry. Hold on, Anthony. Before I send it back to you, well, there's actually a couple of things I need to let you know about.
Yeah.
So, if Green Bay wins, because they're playing Minnesota,
Detroit.
if Green Bay win, if Detroit, okay, so if basically Green Bay wins and Minnesota loses, Green Bay wins the NFC North. However, Green Bay can clinch a playoff spot with a win and a loss to either Arizona or Seattle. The one hope that they did have at the time was if the Rams would have lost, but because the Rams did win over the week, because the Rams won, that now goes out of play, so they can't go after that. So either Arizona loses or Seattle loses, and if Green Bay wins, then Green Bay clinches a playoff spot. If Green Bay wins and Minnesota loses, they have won the NFC North.
Okay. So who? I'm guessing you're gonna go with Green Bay.
I'm going with Green Bay. Yes.
All right. That's what I thought. All right. So now let's get into this on my end. What to watch for? The Lions were invigorated by the change in coach from Matt Patricia to Darrell Bevell last week. This week, that can only carry a team so far, and Green Bay is one of the NFL's best teams. The Lions' poor defense is still their poor defense, and the roster still has big-time holes in it. Those holes could show up in a big way on Sunday. Bold prediction, the Packers will set not one but two milestones. First, wide receiver Davante Adams will catch a touchdown in his 8th straight game to break Don Hutson's nearly 80-year-old team record. Second, quarterback Aaron Rodgers will throw 4 touchdown passes to get to 40 on the season for the 3rd time in his career, which would be the most in NFL history. Stat to know, on play action, Rodgers has an NFL high 18 passing touchdowns with 0 interceptions this season. That's the most in a season since it was first tracked in 2006. His 74% completion percentage on play action passes is also number 1 in the NFL, while his 96.8 passing yards a game on those plays ranks 2nd. Like MF mentioned, this is a 50-50. Green Bay has playoff implications. Detroit has draft implications. For Green Bay, the Packers can clinch the NFC North with a win and a Vikings loss this week. But they could also just clinch a playoff berth with a win and a loss from either the Cardinals or Jets. The Packers own the tiebreaker over the Saints, who sit at 10-2, and they enter the week with a 38% chance at the number 1 seed in the NFC per FPI. A win pushes it to 45%, but a loss dims those hopes to the tune of 12%. The Lions, meanwhile, are projected to pick 9th in the draft, and they still have a 2.1% chance to climb in the top 5. What to know for fantasy? Rodgers is averaging 0.66 fantasy points per pass attempt, his most since 2011. Betting nugget, Green Bay is 5-1 against the spread against teams with losing records this season. Green Bay, big FPI favorite, 77.9%, just about 78% going with Green Bay. I'm going with Green Bay to win as well. 34-24, Green Bay over Detroit. Not much more to say. Next up, back to a game with no implications. I think this will be draft implications for both teams. We have the Atlanta Falcons squaring off against the Los Angeles Chargers from SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. This will be over on Fox with Joe Davis, Brock Heward, and the All-American girl, Jenny Taft. She'll be there. Atlanta opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. Atlanta leads the all-time series 8-2. The Chargers won the last meeting. That was in Atlanta. The last time the Chargers were the home team, 2012, Atlanta won 27-3. The Chargers have never beaten the Falcons at home. The Chargers' 2 wins against the Falcons in 1988 and 2016. Both of those were in Atlanta. So they've never won at home against the Chargers. Or I should say against the Falcons. So what to watch for? Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert will have to figure out how to bounce back from a blowout by New England against a suspect Atlanta defense. He has 23 passing touchdowns, 4 shy of matching Baker Mayfield's rookie record of 27 set in 2018, but this will be a big test in how he responds to adversity. Bold prediction, the Chargers will be held without a touchdown for a 2nd straight game. They'll be more productive on offense than they were in last week's debacle, but still won't find the end zone against the Falcons, who are improved defensively under interim coach Raheem Morris. Stat to know, Falcons receivers Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are 2 of just 7 players averaging 15-plus yards per reception with 50 catches on the year. Draft picture for both. The Chargers have been eliminated from the playoffs, while the Falcons have a 0.1% chance. So, yeah, it's time to turn to the draft. The Chargers are looking at the number 5 pick at the moment, while the Falcons are projected by FPI to pick 7th. What to know for fantasy? Chargers running back Austin Eckler has 25 targets in his 2 games since returning to action, 17 targets this season prior. Betting nugget, Los Angeles is coming off a 45-0 loss. Since 2015, teams coming off a 40-point loss are 0-6-1 against the spread in their next game. Atlanta, the FPI favorite, 57%. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game. I think it'll be close, but I think Atlanta will steal this one. I'm going to go 26-20. Atlanta steals one over the Chargers. So not much more to say. MF, your thoughts on Atlanta and the Chargers?
I got Atlanta as well. I think Atlanta is just going to be the better team, even though it looks like Julio Jones has been shut down for the season. That's the rumor going around. But I do believe Atlanta will turn it around. Will definitely get a big win here. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, 4 games left, and all of these remaining games have playoff implications, I do believe. So we'll start it off with the New Orleans Saints squaring off against the Philadelphia Eagles from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Another 4:25 game over on Fox, and we have Kevin Burkhardt, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Pam Oliver. They'll be in Philly for this one. The Eagles lead the all-time series 16-12 against the Saints. They last met in 2018, 2 games in New Orleans. New Orleans won them both. That included a divisional playoff game. Their last meeting in Philly was 2015. Philly won going away 39-17. The Saints last won in Philadelphia, regular season 2009, but in 2013 they won a playoff game in Philadelphia. So that's all there is to say on this. MF, let's be realistic. I think Philly's playoff chances are just about dead. But yep. New Orleans, though, they control their own destiny when it comes to the South and the number 1 seed in the NFC.
All right, so here's the breakdown. New Orleans has clinched the playoff spot. They got that last week. They can win the NFC South. Simple. Either a win or a Tampa loss. If Tampa loses, then going into that game, New Orleans will already have won the NFC South. So if Tampa loses to the Vikings at that 1 o'clock time slot, then basically if New Orleans takes the field, they could already be the division champions. But if Tampa does survive, then New Orleans, all they would have to do is just beat Philadelphia and they win. And they'll have the division clinch. With Jalen Hurts as the quarterback going into the game against New Orleans, that seems like a tall order for him and a tall task, to say the very least. So, Anthony, I'm going with New Orleans to win the game and clinch the NFC South. I think they'll win the division, and they'll win it pretty handily. So, it is yours.
Okay. What to watch for? Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts. First career start comes against the number 1 defense in the NFL. The Saints are allowing 289 yards a game first, 20.1 points a game fourth, and have racked up 36 sacks, tied for third. Veteran safety Malcolm Jenkins made the move from Philly to New Orleans in the offseason and knows the Eagles' offense extremely well, which could further complicate things for the rookie quarterback. Bold prediction, Saints running backs Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray will each gain more than 100 yards from scrimmage. We saw the Saints lean heavily on their backfield 2 weeks ago at Denver, where the Broncos were without a starting quarterback. I expect a similar conservative game plan outdoors at Philly in Hurts' starting debut, especially since the Saints are so good at running the ball. Stat to know, Hurts will be the 11th different starting quarterback in the NFC East this season, the second most by a division since the 2002 realignment. The AFC North in 2015 had 12. It'll be the first time since 2004 all 4 teams of the NFC East used multiple starting quarterbacks. For the playoff/draft picture, the Saints have already clinched the playoff berth, but could clinch the South with a win or a Bucs loss this week, as MF said. They have a 57.6% chance to keep the top seed in the NFC, according to FPI. The Eagles, however, are down to just a 7.1% chance to make the postseason, which would become 2.9% with their 9th loss this weekend. Projected to have the 6th pick in the draft, Philadelphia has a 41.5% chance of jumping into the top 5. What to know for fantasy? Over the past 4 weeks, there have been 66 instances in which a running back scored at least 14 fantasy points in a game, and Eagles running back Miles Sanders has not accounted for any of those instances. Betting Nuggets since the start of the 2018 season, New Orleans is 17-5 against the spread on the road. New Orleans, big FPI favorite, 78.6%. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints to win this game. I'm going to go 23-17. New Orleans beats Philadelphia. So not much more to say on this one. I do believe we have a few games left here. I think we're down to 3 here. Let me just double check my list here. Yes. Our final 425 game, it features the Washington football team squaring off against the San Francisco 49ers. Not from Levi's Stadium. Oh, no. As you know, COVID is running wild in Southern California, especially in the Santa Clara area. So the Niners have been forced to vacate Levi's Stadium, so they cannot play at Levi's Stadium. So instead, just like they did this past Monday night against Buffalo, that Washington 49er game will be at the State Farm Stadium, formerly University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Chris Myers, Greg Jennings, and Jennifer Hale will have the call. San Francisco opening up as a 3-point favorite. San Francisco leads the all-time series 18-10 with a tie. They met last year in Washington. Ugly game. Niners won a dud game, 9-0. Niners were the last time the Niners, the last meeting in San Francisco, the last meeting with the Niners as the home team was 2014. San Fran won 17-13. The Redskins have not won at the 49ers since 2004. So that's the story there. So there are implications. MF will get to those when we get to them. But for right now, let's get to this. Washington and San Francisco. Just trying to find it. Okay. What to watch for? The 49ers are coming off a disappointing loss, and their slim playoff hopes are on the line, while Washington enters off a big win and is chasing the NFC East crown. Much like the Niners, Washington has invested serious resources in its defensive front and is starting to reap the benefits, as it ranks 5th in the league in pass rush win rate, an ESPN metric powered by NFL Next Gen Stats. San Francisco, meanwhile, is 20th in pass block win rate and has struggled consistently from center to right tackle. How well the Niners hold up against Washington's rapidly evolving front four will go a long way in determining a winner here. Bold prediction, Washington receiver Terry McLaurin will become the 6th opposing receiver to surpass 100 yards against the 49ers this season. 3 have topped 150 and will also score once. He was held to 14 yards by Pittsburgh in part because the Steelers focused hard on him. But against the 49ers, McLaurin will be a bigger part of the attack. San Francisco ranks 17th in catches allowed by receivers and 28th in touchdowns. Stat to know, Washington quarterback Alex Smith is averaging a league-low 5.16 air yards per attempt, the lowest mark by any qualified passer since ESPN began tracking it in 2006. When it comes to the draft picture, I just had the numbers. MF will give you the scenarios. 2 teams fighting for playoff hopes square off. The 49ers have a 28% chance to make the postseason, which would improve to 35% with a win. And Washington has the same record as the NFC East leading Giants, but it has just a 35.2% chance to win the division per FPI. Both teams are projected to pick in the first half of the first round next April, too. What to know for fantasy on a per-game basis, 49er receiver Brandon Ayuk is WR3 since Week 8, trailing only Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. Betting Nuggets, San Francisco, 1-5 against the spread outright at home this season. San Francisco is the FPI favorite, 66.7%. This is a tough one to call. But I got to go with the Washington football team, especially after what we saw last Monday against Pittsburgh. 20-17. I'm going with the Washington football team. So not much more to say. MF. Can the Washington football team, can they keep their momentum going after pulling off the win of the year in Pittsburgh last Monday?
Win of the year last year, no doubt about it. And, you know, there is no playoff scenarios for the Washington football team, unfortunately. However, they would definitely get one step closer to that playoff spot. And for the 49ers, it's just hang on for dear life right now. So definitely major play. I gotta go with Washington. You're absolutely right, Anthony. The hot hand more than anything else. So definitely nothing more to say. Washington wins, and now we go to the Sunday night game,
which is only our game of the week. Oh, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Oh boy, are you ready for this? Our game of the week, the Tony and Mikey special, and oh boy, is this going to be a beauty. That's all I can say. Sunday Night Football on NBC, the Pittsburgh Steelers squaring off against the Buffalo Bills from Bills Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Catherine Tappan work in this game. And believe it or not, Buffalo is actually opening up as a 1.5-point favorite. Series history favors the Pittsburgh Steelers 14-9. However, they met on a Sunday night at this very time 1 year ago in Pittsburgh, and the Buffalo Bills stole one in Pittsburgh 17-10, snapping a 6-game losing streak to the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, Pittsburgh won the last meeting in Buffalo in 2016. That was a 27-20 final. The Buffalo Bills have not beaten the Steelers at home since 1999. That's the last time they won, back when Doug Flutie was at the helm. So there's nothing more to say. Massive playoff implications for both teams. MF, this is our game of the week. There's nothing more to say. That you are the Phil Sittons to my Jim Nance. Nothing more to say. Hello, friends. Do that thing I like.
All right. Before we get to that, playoff scenarios for Pittsburgh. You can win the AFC North by winning over Buffalo, and you would need Cleveland to lose to Baltimore on Monday Night Football. We'll get into that in just a minute. However, you can also get in the playoffs by 4 scenarios, and it's not concurrent. One of these 4 has to happen. A Pitt win, that gets them in. A Raiders loss gets Pittsburgh in. A Miami loss gets Pittsburgh in. A Tennessee loss gets Pittsburgh in. So Pittsburgh is almost assured to be in the playoffs, because if the Raiders lose to Indianapolis, which it could happen, Miami loses to Kansas City, that could happen, or if Tennessee loses, well, that one's a little bit of a reach. And I think we all can legitimately say that's a reach. But if Tennessee loses, some way, somehow, if they lose, Pittsburgh gets in. So, at least going against the game against Buffalo, Pittsburgh could already have assured themselves a playoff spot. That puts a lot of pressure to deliver, because if they win and Cleveland loses, then they are the North Division champions. If you're Buffalo, a win over Pittsburgh almost assures you that you're going to be in the playoffs. It doesn't get you there yet. You would probably need one more week, but it would almost assure you a playoff spot. On top of that, a win and a Miami loss puts you 2 games up with 3 games to play. That almost assures them the AFC East. The AFC East could be Buffalo's if that happens. It's almost a foregone conclusion. All you would need is either Miami to lose to New England next week, or you have to win your game, and it's over. The AFC East would go to the Buffalo Bills, and they would have won it all. So, obviously the hot hand is Buffalo. Ever since the Hail Murray, Buffalo has turned it around. They got some big wins, and Pittsburgh is coming off the most demoralizing loss of the season. That big loss against Washington, and that stunned everybody. At the end of the day, I'm going to go with the team with the hot hand. I'm going to go with Buffalo to knock off Pittsburgh. Buffalo wins. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah. What to watch for over the past 4 weeks? The Bills own the second best passing offense in the NFL in terms of yards a game, but the Steelers have allowed the third fewest passing yards a game in that span. Considering Buffalo struggles to run the ball effectively this season, it's critical that the Bills either figure out a way to solve Pittsburgh's pass defense or get their run game going. Bold prediction, James Washington will lead Pittsburgh receivers in targets. The Steelers had a whopping 7 drops in the loss to Washington, and Coach Mike Tomlin said afterward that receivers who can't catch the ball will be replaced by those who can. Though explosive, Deontay Johnson has struggled the most with drops, recording 3 last week, and quarterback Ben Roethlisberger has openly campaigned to get Washington on the field more often. Washington is known for making combat catches and explosive plays, 2 things that will be needed against a tough Bills team. Stat to know, the Bills offense leads the league in both third and fourth down conversion rate. Third is 49.3%, fourth is 83.3% this season, and that third down rate is the highest by any team since the 2011 New Orleans Saints, 56.7%. Like MF said, a lot going on here. First, the Steelers can clinch a playoff berth with a win or a loss from either the Dolphins, Raiders, or Titans. They can clinch the AFC North with a win and a Browns loss to the Ravens Monday, which we'll get into in a moment. The Bills can also clinch a playoff berth with a win and losses from each of these 3 teams: the Ravens, Raiders, and Dolphins. The Bills have a 90.8% chance to win the AFC East Division, according to the FPI, something they have not done since 1995. What to know for fantasy? Yes, Johnson may lead the league in drops this season, but the consistent work has him as WR4 in total points over the past month. Pittsburgh is 8-4 against the spread this season in the betting nugget, the second best mark in the NFL. Pittsburgh is the FPI favorite, 56.8%, just about 57% going with Pitt. But just like they did last year, I think they'll do it again this year. I'm not overly confident. I'm worried, but I do believe my team can do it, especially after Pittsburgh struggles against Washington. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills to win this game. 27-24, Buffalo beats Pittsburgh for the second year in a row on Sunday Night Football. 1 game left, another big one, another game with massive implications for both of the teams involved. Monday Night Football on ESPN, the Baltimore Ravens squaring off against the Cleveland Browns from the First Energy Stadium in Cleveland over on ESPN with Steve Levy, Brian Griese, Louis Riddick, and Lisa Salters. Baltimore is opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. I know for a fact this is the second meeting because these 2 teams met on opening day in Baltimore, and Baltimore had their way with them. So Baltimore leads the all-time series 32-11. And Ravens won in Cleveland 31-15 last year. The Ravens, they've done very well against the Ravens are on a 5-year winning streak, maybe at least a 5 or a 6-year winning streak in Cleveland. The Browns have not beaten the Ravens at home as of now since 2013. That was a 24-18 win. So here we go. This is our number 3 game of the week, by the way. What to watch for? 2 of this game's biggest stars, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson and Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, continue to work their way back after testing positive for the coronavirus. Both players who performed well in their returns this past week will be instrumental as Baltimore and Cleveland make their playoff pushes. Bold prediction, the Ravens will be held to a season low in points. Jackson and the Baltimore offense is coming off a game in which they scored 34 points and ran for 294 yards, but that came against a struggling Cowboy defense. Whereas the Browns have held teams to 18.8 points at home this season, the 4th fewest in the NFL. Stat to know, the Browns have a minus 15 point differential this season, the worst by any team with at least 9 wins through 12 games in NFL history via the Elias Sports Bureau data. When it comes to the numbers, MF will have the scenarios, I'll have the numbers. The Ravens are on the outside looking in, sitting at a 68% chance to make the playoffs according to FPI. But that would go up to 84% with a win or drop to 37% with a loss. The Browns, meanwhile, have an 86.2% chance to make the playoffs at this point for the first time since 2002. What to know for fantasy? Jackson was QB6 last week, matching his best finish since opening the season with a QB4 performance in week 1 against the same team. Betting nugget, Cleveland is 0-4 against the spread against AFC North opponents this season. Baltimore FPI favorite, 65.9%. It's a 66% favorite for Baltimore. But I disagree with that. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns to win this game. Pull it off. Close game, high-scoring game, 30-28. The Cleveland Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens. Nothing more to say. MF, what are the implications for our number 3 game of the week to close it out?
Well, there is no clinching scenarios for either team. However, if you are Cleveland, if you win that game, you pretty much are now about 1 or 2 wins away from going to the playoffs. You pretty much would put yourself in the driver's seat to get in, and consequently, you would knock Baltimore out of the picture. Baltimore would probably be a dead duck at that point. If Baltimore wins, that flips everything in the AFC. That puts Baltimore closer. Cleveland takes a hit. And then if whatever happens with Miami, the Raiders, and Indy goes, that could really flip this all the way around. So if Cleveland wins, they pretty much are in. If Baltimore wins, it opens a Pandora's box in the AFC, and all hell could break loose. It gets really interesting after that, Anthony. But I do got Cleveland winning, so there's really nothing more to add. Let's call it a night.
Yes, sir. Great night. Great scenarios there, MF. Great work on that. And I know you'll have more for us on this show next week. So
we'll probably have a lot next week.
Certainly. Including 2 Saturday games next week. Oh, yeah. But anyways, that'll do it for this. So we want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We'll be back with you Monday night for Ridiculously Raw. We'll review Monday Night Raw and my Tony's take on Impact Wrestling and 205 Live. And then Wednesday, we got Wednesday Night Mayhem with Dynamite and NXT. AEW Dynamite and NXT, rather. Thursday, the season finale of College Football Thursday, championship week. So many exciting games, including Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida, Alabama. Just to name a couple going into that. Friday night, Cerebral Smack Talk. We'll review Friday Night SmackDown and preview the TLC pay-per-view. And then next Saturday, this program and some of the notable games. I mean, the Houston Texans against the Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots against the Miami Dolphins, the game of the week, the Kansas City Chiefs against the New Orleans Saints, and an interesting Sunday night game with the Cleveland Browns squaring off against the New York Giants. So those are just some of the interesting games to look forward to next week. It's not an exciting week, but Kansas City and New Orleans, hands down, the game of the week next week. So could be a Super Bowl preview, don't know. And then our TLC recap following TLC. So that'll do it for this. So until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, it's Anthony Florio signing off on behalf of my panel, good old MF Michael Fletcher, Michael Bullock, Dee Woodson, and always and forever Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up, Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed weekend. And until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, you've been watching Week 14 of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday right here on the Zone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long. Bye, everybody. Bye.